Good morning, everybody. My name is Jody. My husband David John and I have a small farm in the panhandle of North Idaho. These are our stories and adventures, so welcome to Moose Flats Farm. Today I thought we'd do the tour of the gardens and see where we're at on the 8th of August. So over here, see the hedgerow. It's filled in nice and full. The perennial sunflowers are in here and they're doing okay. This one over here is just about ready to blossom out. And then I've got to show you a mess. We're getting a new power pole put in, and the power company came out and pruned my father-in-law's plum tree and his currant bush. So that's where the currant was, like how they pruned it. And there is where the plum tree was. So that mess was full of irises. I was able to go through, thank God they're really forgiving, and get a bunch of them pulled out for planting, replanting in there and planting around. But the daylilies along the garage looking really nice. And it's funny, on these two flower boxes, both have the same soil, same plants. And this one is just massive and full. And that one's a little punier. But the little Alberta spruce with the lobelia is looking really pretty. Over here in my quote-unquote shade bed out front, as you see, the delphinium are struggling. As you can see, something ate the center out of it. And I did find two big green caterpillars, which I fed to the chickens, and I have seen slugs in here. Never really had to deal with slugs before living over here. But as you saw in the astilbes, their flowers just faded out color-wise. The idea last year when I planted this, because we had shade cloth on the awning, was that this stayed really shady. Well, we didn't get the shade cloth on it this year, so they got a little too hot. But my mixed petunia basket's looking pretty. My little mix of herbs right here. And I'm just letting them go to flower for the pollinators. This is your Thai basil. This little petunia, and this is the balcony mixed petunia. Looks really pretty underneath the barbecue. And then I've got another mixed petunia pot there. And we roll up on the deck. And the Christmas cactuses really love spending the summer out on the deck. My palm forest, my angel wing begonia, and then I've got the waxwing begonias and impatiens, just to add a little color. You roll over the palms. And koi pond. Got a couple cattail hot dogs coming on. The Japanese maple is doing phenomenal this year. Daylilies are finally blooming. A couple years back, I dug them completely up, put a layer of heavy-duty landscape fabric down, filled it full of soil and replanted them. They didn't really like that, and hence haven't really bloomed since, but they finally pushed through the landscape fabric into the soil So we got lots of flowers this year. My 2 little rescued cactuses. My citronella plants. Let's go around and take a look at David John's Mexican fan palm. It's put like on 6 leaves this year. The 2 little pineapples. And I did go through this year and transplant the pineapples and clean them up, and they're really starting to take off again. But another look at the Japanese maple. Have a type of sedum here, and then the creeping phlox, and the variegated grass hiding Buddha. The knotweed jungle. And then the bog. And all of those floating plants. This spring I just got 4 starts, and they have really taken off and doing their job in the bog. Let's roll around the other side of the pond and look at the Mother's Day bed, that it's in a spot that absence forget to water it. So I've been really working on that. Water lilies, I really wish they would bloom, but they haven't. And I look at the waterfall. The pretty day lilies. And my hot vines are struggling this year. This one is the one that's doing the best. And I'll explain why in a minute. The Shasta Daisy. And then you've got this little one. It's not doing too bad, but not great. Some grass. My Faltspirea, old blooms and new blooms. A plug of mint, and then this poor guy. Some more mint and my maple, and then my forsythia. And we've been really conscious here lately to get out here and water. The reason why the one hot vine is doing better than the others is because this patch of clover, when I planted it, the oscillating sprinkler would be watering the Shasta Daisy and that hot vine. But as you see, it looks a little mowed. Especially up here where it's nice and thick. You can really see that the birds did a job. I opened that gate yesterday afternoon and told them to softly graze over here. Well, the gate's now closed so they don't eat it down to nothing. But let's go look through the back end of the hoop house. So you got a little of a knotweed jungle. And the back into the hoop house. Garlic is drying nicely. So let's go take a look at the fruit trees. So all the fruit trees are doing really good. this little champagne grape. It's got lots of grapes on it. The mint under the peach tree looks really good. The mint under this little apple tree. And then I have some oregano under that little apple tree. And then my other champagne grape, it's got a few on it, not as many as the other one, but looking really good. And then got some thyme underneath this plum tree, which was really funny because I thought it was 3 apples here. Completely forgot that this was a plum until I went through on all of them and stapled the names on them so I know what I have. Got a plug of oregano underneath this pie cherry. A little plug of thyme underneath this plum. And then some oregano underneath this pie cherry. And as you see, I have gone through and painted all the trunks with the white latex paint. So the reason for doing that is it helps prevent sun scald, which basically blisters the trunk of the trees and can cause to early demise. So it's 50-50 of a white latex paint to water, and then you just paint it on. And it's supposed to help prevent the sun scald because it reflects the sun's heat off the trunks. So let's go look at a new bed that I'm working on. So this isn't a new bed, it's just I'm rehabbing this bed. It was full of bindweed, so I've gotten most of that pulled out and have added 6 to 8 inches of that soil. And it does have the wild yarrow in it. But kind of what my plan is I'm going to plant some of those irises in here and then collect pansy, viola, and columbine seeds and scatter them in here. Put a little shavings over it and call it good till next year. But my hydrangea is nice and full. Oh yeah. It's going to be a late bloomer this year, but it's completely loaded, so will look really pretty with the big white pom-pom flowers. Rolling over towards the seed shed. As you can see, lots of volunteer Johnny jump-ups along the rock wall there. The wheelbarrow. Little garden, and then the pepper tower with the marigolds. Need to get out here and pick these cayenne longs, but it's slowly coming on. It's like I've got, what are these? So these are Sugar Rush, and then some serrano peppers, more volunteer pansies and Johnny jump-ups. Somewhere down in there is an echinacea, but the bachelor buttons and balcony mix petunias. And then up here in this pepper pot, got bananas and more cayenne long, and I'm not sure what's in the back. the other pepper pot. And I did on here add this shelf to the front so I can put the plant trays on it on both sides. But early jalapenos, and those guys are the pepperoncinis. And my hanging baskets up here at the seed shed are kind of struggling. I'm thinking they're probably just getting a little too much sun, where the ones down at the house are kind of protected, because these were all planted at the same time. The only difference is these get a lot of sun during the day. But my original citronella plants, and I've got more peppers here. Got an Anaheim coming on. Some more serranos. And then you've got this flower pot and the Echinacea growing right up in the middle. And then I've got some, that's not the orange spice, that's the lemon drop. And some orange spice on this one. Nothing on Jay's peach yet. So let's walk through the second in-ground garden area. So here's the forsythia starts. Got Johnny Jump Ups coming up and some volunteer cosmos. But all the forsythias look really good, completely covered in new growth. And this is the willy-nilly Sweet 100, and we have been eating quite a few ripe tomatoes off him. Just kind of keeping him on the fence so I can mow. Over here, this is going to get reset here shortly with brassicas. Got a couple cucumbers that they're going, but not very fast. And then we come to the dry beans. And as you see, like this one here, that is slug pressure. Probably will just pull that guy out. Several of them have recovered from it. And I don't know what I was thinking. I know what I was thinking, that dry beans are just bush beans. They're not vine beans. No, I didn't read the instructions all the way, so I have kind of impromptu tent areas where the dry beans have shown me that they're climbers. Like this patch here, just using bamboo stakes to tie them up. And I am getting beans on them. These ones are looking like they're just going to stay semi-bushy. But it's like all those dry beans coming on. Another slug issue one, but it's putting on some fruit. Another area that's going to get reset here shortly, and another one. And then it's like I've got this chunk of box wire here for these guys to climb up on. Little perennial area with the pretty pretty sunflower. The Echinaceas here have a little slug pressure, but the little mini roses are really starting to take off. It's like I even got one that's blooming for me. And these two echinaceas look really good. But the blue clematis has finally, let me see if I can get you high enough, finally started blooming. And then this one is just a hot mess between box wire and bamboo stakes. Another side of the in-ground permanent bed. And those guys. And then these ones I put the fence here because I did have a couple that are wanting to climb this side of the perennial bed. The Echinacea, moss rose, mini roses. And this one has stopped its flowering. Don't see any new growth yet, so hoping it's gonna take off here shortly. We got these ones, and these two definitely under some pressure. I think that one is gone. The moss rose not doing good. And then got this area here. So I did double side this one with the box wire just because every single one of those bean plants is doing so good. And then just kind of have the bamboo tent shaped. Over here you've got a little patch of raspberries, and then the volunteer sunflowers. Isn't that one pretty? And then I got one of the mammoths up there. Not quite ready to open, but getting there. And then you come to the little personal melons. And they're just a tangled mess. And some, actually those are cosmos. Yeah. There's my zinnia. So the feathery ones over there are the cosmos. Another area that's ready for reset. And I did have to put a chunk of box wire on this side of the little melons because they were just climbing everywhere but where I wanted them to. The old potato bed was able to get it completely fixed and ready to go, and did not shock that sunflower, which makes me really happy. And in the bed that has the climbing rose, I did replant it, and I just used the two big roses that I'd bought, and then the rest of the little flowers, the milkweed and the mini roses that I have, and planted them in here. So got mini roses at the end, and then this is the white and yellow one. Wasn't necessary to prune all the flowers off, but I wanted them to work on root development and not so much flowers. So I've got some milkweed and mini roses. And there's the red one. And some flower buds that I missed. Some more mini roses. And these cucumbers are doing the best. They're nice and big, and they've got flowers on them. The climbing rose has gone through a first flush of flowers, and that's the tail end, and has a second flush coming in. Let's see how it's got, looks like like a big apple blossom. So, speaking of apples, let's take a look at what we've got going on over here in the orchard. And we did wind up having to tie 2 of the trees up because they were so loaded with fruit that they were actually falling over, which is not good. But here's the one in the back. And as you see, just loaded with fruit. Under the water. And this guy here just also full of fruit. The onions that I planted for seed are looking really good. And this little pear is struggling a little bit. I think once it cools down a little bit, I will just dig it up from here and plant it over there by the woodshed. Just because it's not liking it here and I don't want to lose it. So here we have the little chive pot that's half of the old plant. The wild bellflower and the Christmas tree. I have to reset the tic-tac-toe board. David John won again. But the little weeping pussy willow looking really good. Columbine seed heads that I have to collect. The little flower boxes here look really pretty with the patio mix petunias and the bachelor buttons and snapdragons. That one over there. And then the strawberry bed, nice and full. But next year I am going to be removing that arch off that bed. Got your green beans, and then a beefsteak tomato that is struggling a little bit in the heat in the afternoons. More green beans, and this is the big kahuna. And then you've got the little champagne style tomatoes, which is funny because we went up to my mom and dad's the other day and my dad's like, you got to look at this tomato plant. Well, he asked for a fun cherry tomato, so that's the one that I gave him, and he wasn't sure what he'd gotten. But here in the walkway we've got the strawberries and columbines and some volunteer pansies. The hyacinth vine? Yeah. No flowers yet, lots of growth. And then my jungle. It's full of fruit. Like I've got that guy there in the walkway. Strawberries. Columbines that need to get their seed heads cut. My shade bed, the daylilies are blooming in it. No blossoms yet on the hostas, but they look pretty. And the ferns. And down here, we do have a pumpkin coming on. More pansy volunteers. At what point do volunteers become weeds? But I did cut this oregano half back and left just on the back wall the flowers for the bees. And all the pretty sunflowers, which are kind of haphazard right now. And it's easier to see when we get to the other side, but we had a wind come through at a weird angle and kind of knocked them over, kind of knocked some of the corn over, kind of got the corn tied up, and I'll show you that when we roll over there. And then the wind came at another angle. So yeah, some of my corn has fallen over and I need to get pruned out. But, my wall of tomatoes are just full of tomatoes, and I just saw a ripe one. And I always forget how well the squash does over in these beds. So I'm gonna have to be going through and pruning some leaves and everything so I can, because I did see a ripe tomato back in there, but this is just an absolute massive jungle. So the tomatoes in the back, the tomatoes along there. Let's walk over there. These ones are going to be a little easier to get to a certain point. But it's like, been picking yellow zucchini like crazy. Got some acorn squash way back in there. You can kind of see it right there. And my plan next year is to take these cattle panels and put them in the new in-ground garden and have my tomatoes down there. And when we get the hoop houses, we're going to have a space in between where the birds aren't going to be able to be, so we're going to put our pumpkins over there just to let them go willy-nilly. But the purple pole beans are climbing up and making their own way down along that string of string lights. Here's a shot of the green beans on the backside where the beefsteak tomato is. I do have the one pole bean here on the end that's taking off. Do we have any beans? Got some babies coming on. Gonna have to be out here checking over here. The Blue Lake bush beans. The tomatoes on this cattle panel. Still no flowers on this one. Flowers but no fruit yet on this guy. And this pole bean is climbing up. The yellow pear tomatoes are starting to ripen. But my container bush beans I've got lots of green beans, need to get out here and get them picked. The other hyacinth bean. The 4th of July. And baby boomer tomatoes, have been picking lots of tomatoes off of them. And then in this bed, the the back half is nice and full. This front part struggling with slugs. My white blushed mini roses. And yes, those are mini roses, even though they're 3 feet tall. These guys have to get out here and do some deadheading on the roses. And then you've got your sunflowers on the corn bed. Some are blooming, some are getting close. Right here, the corn doesn't look too bad. But as you can see there, that was part of the windblown area. And the geese were really happy on the other side. They kind of pruned what they could reach. Okay, go away, guys. So we'll go back to looking at the rest of that area of the garden here in a minute once the geese have moved down and aren't going to be so loud. So now we're in the hoop house area, and I've got a volunteer sunflower that's going to be absolutely loaded with flowers here shortly. The other chunk of the old chive plant, still haven't gotten the horseradish planted. All the asparagus. The urban mint bed. Everything is just growing really nice. Got the little trees that I need to come out and weed. At least weed the weeds out, leave the petunias. Some raspberries. A cat. But in here, the peppers are doing absolutely amazing. Just loaded with fruit. Gonna have to be out here picking shortly. Carrots are gone. The onions are doing great. Hopefully they'll bulb up before it freezes. Little red onions. And that thyme plant, the 2 thyme plants there, they just dried up, so rip them out. The pepperoncinis are just loaded. You got your black Hungarians. Still no flowers on the habaneras. Orange spice. Jay's peach. It's got a couple flowers coming on it finally. Cayenne longs. Oh no. Yeah, those were the pepperoncinis, because here's a bunch of banana peppers that I need to get picked. What's this guy? back here? Oh, that says it's a serrano, but that looks more like a Mad Hatter flower. But as you see, the garlic is really getting good and dry. I did steal some because I'm making some jerky and I needed some garlic for it, so I'm like, I'm not gonna go to the store and buy it. I've got my own. So let's go see if we can get into the greenhouse without too much noise. But in the greenhouse, I have gone through and pruned back the stevia, got all the different mixed herbs, and we have gotten a couple red tomatoes out of here, but as you see, they are all the way up to the ceiling. Need to tie this guy up, but I do have some fruit, not a whole lot. And I think part of that is just because it gets a little hot in here and preservation mode kicks in. But we have the missing tam jalapenos here in the back, and then all my sweet peppers. I've got lots of flowers, but no fruit set yet. And the geese are being obstinate. They're sticking around this area. So out front here you have the daylily pot, and I've got a mama duck behind that metal there that just protecting her from the sun. But you have the one rhubarb bed, and then this bed here, the perennial sunflower plugs that I put in there are taking off. I've got the irises and the wild rose that I need to get pruned out. This daylily pot. This flower bed with the mini roses and petunias. So let's go up and look at the raspberries, and hopefully they'll follow me up here so we can go back that way without listening to them. But I have to get out here and re-tie up the raspberry canes so the birds will stop helping by pruning. But I've gotten quite a bit of raspberries off them this year. Really impressed with the lack of care last year that they got. But they look really good. And as I was saying about the sunflowers and the weird wind, they look really pretty. But as you can see, the wind kind of blew out, so they're all leaning out. Back side of the garden. And the Romas are doing good. Not sure how I'm going to get to them. So just now that the parade of goose are gone, just the backside look at the garden, plus the fact with moving the cattle pennels and tomatoes, I can finally get that foxglove dug out of there. But as far as the corn, you can see here where the ones that have fallen over were close enough that the geese just nibbled away at it. Go around the front here. Need to get in here and deadhead these roses. And then I've got pretty little sunflower, pear tree. Have that hanging pot. And then these two over here. The two on the ends are struggling a little bit because of the heat, but this one that's kind of in the covered area is doing a little better, and that's the sparkler petunia. So let's take a look at the front of the workshop and the chicken coop. So the perennial sunflower is just about coming into bloom. I did have to tie it back a little bit because it was leaning over. And then we've got my two hollyhocks. We've got a light pink and a dusty rose one. And the window box that's kind of hidden, have to get out here and wash the dust off the plants. But isn't that pretty? Have a couple geese. So you got the two window boxes here, and my chicken coop, and my foxgloves are just about done. But this grape this year is absolutely massive and loaded with fruit. Let's go into the lean-to off the chicken coop, and I can really show you the grapes that I've got coming this year. And I have gone through, and as you see, solar collector added added solar lights, just an ounce of prevention. But like I said, this side of the grapevine really shows you how loaded it is with dusty fruit, which just means that when they're ripe and we pick them, we just got to make sure we wash them good because they're covered with chicken dust. So this is my anglet, so you guys aren't in the sun. This is my favorite spot to sit on in the morning, drink a cup of coffee, and show you the view I have, and you'll understand why it's my favorite spot to sit. So you've got the deck, the hot tub, and the mound, and then you just get to Look at the beauty of the garden, the beauty of the seed shed, out to the orchard, the flower pots, and then the glimpse of the shade bed with the volunteer petunias in the walkway. But it's not a bad view. Well, this is where I'm going to end today's video. I hope you enjoyed the tour of my gardens. I know some of it's a hot mess, but it's what happens at the middle end of the growing season. Everything just goes crazy. So I hope you have a good day and a good week. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next adventure. Bye for now.